Good evening. My name is Jerry Cooper, and I am the project manager for special assessment districts for the city of Oxnard. Tonight, we will be discussing Community Facilities Districts, or better known as CFDs, reserve studies. The recommended action: that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommends that the City Council receive and file the reserve studies for Westport CFD2, Seabridge CFD4, and River Park CFD5. A little bit of background: the Special Districts Division of Public Works Department manages a total of 48 assessment districts, which include 5 non-bonded community facilities districts, 3 of which are Westport, Seabridge, and River Park. In prior years, reserve studies were completed. However, they were ultimately incomplete and were not updated with any frequency. In 2018, special districts initiated reserve studies for the CFDs to establish a guideline for infrastructure reserves as part of the budget process. Reserve studies include capital improvements, maintenance replacements, and useful life of existing infrastructure. Through these calculations of the depreciating assets, the study provides recommendations within a time frame for asset replacement and a total recommended amount of reserves for each year. With the annual reserve calculation, we will be able to provide a more stable levy for each CFD. River Park Reserve Study, or Capital Funding Plan, was initiated in fiscal year 2018-19 and updated in 2020-2021. At the time of the reserve study, River Park CFD5's estimated reserve balance was $4,237,132. Based on the reserve study findings, a fully funded reserve balance would be $2,800,538, providing a surplus of $1,436,594. 47 funded components were assessed in River Park CFD5, including walking paths, sidewalks, lighting infrastructure, playgrounds, and restrooms. Annually, the surplus fund balance will be analyzed, and refunds will be given to residents in the form of levy credits. Seabridge Reserve Study, or Capital Funding Plan, was initiated in fiscal year 2018-2019 and updated this year in fiscal year 2020-2021. At the time of the reserve study, the estimated fund balance was $3,845,348. Based on the reserve study findings, a fully funded reserve balance would be $2,169,613, leaving a surplus of $1,675,735. 28 funded components were assessed in Seabridge CFD4, including walking path, playgrounds, restrooms, and seawalls. Seabridge CFD4 will begin funding reserves for seawalls replacement in 2035 after the completion of their construction bond payments. Westport Reserve Study, or Capital Funding Plan, was initiated in this fiscal year 2020-2021 and is still currently in draft form. Westport CFD2, at the time of the initiation of the reserve study, had an estimated fund balance of $1,537,104, with a fully funded reserve balance of $1,083,499, leaving a surplus of $453,605. 28 funded components were assessed in Westport CFD2, including playgrounds, restrooms, walking path, and seawalls. Westport CFD2 will fund reserves for seawalls replacement in 2033 after the completion of the construction bond. At the time of this report, review and discussions are still going on with the Resident Advisory Committee in Westport CFD2 on elements of the study. The reserve study for Westport is not complete until the City of Oxnard and the residents have come to an agreement on all the elements within the reserve study. Neither Westport CFD2 or Seabridge CFD4 have harbor mouth dredging included in the reserve study because it has historically been done by the Army Corps of Engineers and funded through grant programs. Once finalized, all reserve studies will be used as guidance documents for the annual budget process. Financial impact. There is no direct financial impact to these receive and file reserve studies. All costs associated with the development of the reserve studies funded through the respective CFDs were made possible by Agreement 8944-20-PW with Association Reserves. There is no impact to the general fund. And at this time, I will answer any questions from the committee.